guess I'll do that. We tend to leave these up on the Facebook afterward for people who weren't able to make it.
Yeah.
So, I know. Have you been a part of the group for a little while? I mean, I know it's kind of new, but
I've been, I don't know, probably maybe a month or two.
cool.
I kind of followed here and there. I've been involved with grass-fed marketing and kind of been doing that.
Oh, good. How's that going for you? Do you guys direct market?
Yeah, I sell retail and I raise bison. And so I'm trying to build my email list up. So that's kind of what they help you with, like funnels and stuff like that. And then doing like bulk sales, because I do mostly retail, but I kind of want to do like pre-bulk sales, like for eighths, quarters, halves, and wholes.
Sure.
Which I don't. I do sell them like to one guy and a half, but I want to do, more so I can pre-sell. That way I know, how many animals I need to get ready.
Yeah. So, how long have you been selling directly to customers?
I've been, what was it? 2013 is when I started my company. And then I just kind of was doing it on the side as I was working full time. But then last summer, August of last summer, I started doing it full time. And
Nice.
I mean, there's a lot doing like farmers markets and selling to restaurants and just a little bit of online sales, but that's kind of what the direction I want to move it in, is like doing more online sales. That way it frees more time up for me to actually, farm and do more stuff around the farm, and then free my, time up for other stuff too. Because, farmers markets take a lot of work and a lot of time, and
That's true.
restaurants, restaurants are tricky because, with the pandemic and everything. Before the pandemic, everything was kind of steady, but after the pandemic, it's just was all over the place. And plus they don't want to pay, the higher price for your product as if you were selling retail. So kind of want to move away from that.
Yeah, definitely. So how is the, have you had any luck building your email list? Like, have you created like a lead magnet and stuff?
Yeah, actually with Facebook, I mean, I've picked up close to 500 people in the last, what's today's date, the 1st. So when did I launch that? It's been about 6 days. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you launched a lead magnet on Facebook and you've picked up 500 people in 6 days?
Yeah.
Shoot, that sounds awful successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of, that's kind of what they teach you, kind of, how to target people and how to set those ads up. It's kind of tricky to get those ads set up at first, but once you get the hang of it and you understand how it actually works, then you can target people the way, like you can target like CrossFit people, people that eat healthy, just certain things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did, is targeted like the bigger cities around me, and like CrossFit, and then just like healthy eating people.
Are you close to some population centers? Some big ones?
Close to Pittsburgh, close to Cleveland's about 3 hours from me, and then Columbus is about 2 hours from me. Cincinnati is about 4 hours. But I have a shipping program where I can ship my products. So I can, I can get the product out to them easily.
Did you find that like the infrastructure cost you had to put into that, did it seem reasonable? That didn't seem like a barrier to get into it?
No, I mean, it's all it's got a lot to do with like your setting up, getting trying to get, it's still kind of tricky. Like if you can do, like, the colder months work better because you can do ground and you can get a pretty good price. with the shipping.
Because not
But
gonna thaw on the way.
right, yeah, because you can do it within 2 to 3 days and it'll make it there within that time. But what I have done is I've implemented like zones and price increases for certain zones. So if somebody lives, 2 states away from me, their price is going to be higher than what it is if somebody lives more local. So
That makes sense.
and they see that price, and they don't see like what anybody else sees, only from
Huh.
their area.
That's interesting because normally you would go through, your checkout process and you'd see the prices and then at the end you get the shipping, which sometimes people are like, ah, never mind, that's a lot. But you're
Well,
saying that the
yeah,
whole shopping experience, it's already targeted to them from where they're at?
yeah. Have you ever heard of Grace Cart?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I use Grace Cart, and what you can do is you can set up your pricing, what do they call it, a pricing group.
Mhm.
Okay, and then so like you want to do it, so you have a zone that is 2 day shipping, regardless. That zone is 2 days to get there. So you just put in a percentage. You figure out that zone, like what it would cost to go to that zone, and
Sure.
then you implement a percentage increase on the product. And then when they look at it for that zone, that's already implemented in that zone. So that product already has that percentage increase. Let's say it's 10%.
Nice.
It already puts that 10% on it when they look at it. And then it already has that, but then you can also do a an increased price per pound. So
Okay.
like if you do like $1.50 price increase. So what they actually see is they see the price of the product, but then they do see like a delivery fee, which is like a dollar, say $1.50 or $2 a pound.
Oh, okay.
So they only see a small percent. Like the delivery fee might only be like $8, and that's all they see. They see the
Sure.
price, and then they see, but your price has already got that implemented.
So I guess the thing, and I've dabbled in shipping, not for myself, but for another operation I work for. And the thing that was tricky about it in my mind was knowing how much you could put in a box. Because if someone wants to spend like $150 on steak, the thermal mass of a few steaks isn't a lot, right?
Right.
So like the price point's high, but the weight and the thermal mass is low. So like figuring out, I guess that's why you got to put together packages, right? So you know
Yeah.
how much will fit in a box and how much it weighs and how much,
Yeah.
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 Because if
Yeah.
you let people a la carte, is that how you say it? All the
Yeah.
stuff,
A la carte.
then
Yeah.
it's just like, you get everything in there except this one chuck roast. And you're like, I can't send this by itself.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I know. That's kind of been a kind of because I have a la carte on mine, and but I don't have a lot of people that just order like one thing. I mean, usually they're ordering 3 products minimum,
Sure.
because for one, they don't like to buy just one steak and then have to pay for that
Yeah.
that delivery. So they order more. So
Sure.
I haven't had that problem. But what I have learned through grass-fed marketing is they have like they have a system of like the box sizes and how much like dry ice you should put in with how many pounds
Sure.
of that is in that box. And then they have like certain boxes that you should try to use. Um, so like if you do a package, you want to use like a cubed, either like a 12 by 12 by 12 or 14 by 14 by 14 or 16 by 16 by 16. And they tell you like how much weight that each box will hold.
Mhm.
And then how much dry ice you need to put in with it.
Cool.
So, and that's kind of what I want to kind of move into is like if I start doing like ace or quarters, I want to get those bigger boxes because the boxes I have are smaller boxes and they're more made for like the a la carte, and for the smaller products. I mean, I can hold maybe 8 to 10 pounds at most in my boxes.
Yeah. 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 Shipping a quarter would be a lot. I wonder.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that's cool. Yeah, I know that wasn't the topic of the scheduled thing, but I just think it's really curious to learn about other operations. I've never used Gray's Cart, but it looks like they do a really good job. I mean, I know operations that use it and they have really nice sites and stuff. So
yeah.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you, man. And so do you just do bison or you also have the cattle too?
No, that's why I got on here, is because I've been for the last probably year, I've been wanting to get into grass-fed beef too.
Sure.
That way I have, an avenue for beef and bison, because bison's more of a niche. Not everybody eats it or likes it. So I kind of want to diversify and also sell that too.
Sure. I mean, so the first thing that jumps to mind is like handling facilities for bison are so specific, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so do you feel like they could easily accommodate bringing in cattle, or would there be some issues there?
No, I mean, I would actually, bison structures are built. So basically, if you were to run cattle through them, it would work with cattle just
Okay.
fine, but it would be overkill for
Oh,
cattle.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that wouldn't hurt a thing. But my family's, had cattle. And so I have some old cattle. I have well, it ain't no old cattle chute. It's a fairly new cattle chute. And it's pretty portable. So I would have my operations at different farms. So
Sure.
I'd have my grass-fed beef at a different farm, and then I might got my bison on another farm. Um,
Interesting. Yeah. So when I put this topic out there, I was thinking like stacking operations enterprises on the same operation.
all the
But
same
where would
operations.
you see like, so I mean, my idea with that is that, you read about or you hear people doing that. And so what happens is the inputs, or rather the byproducts from one becomes inputs for another, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
say like cattle and chickens, right? So the chickens follow the cattle and they spread the manure and they're getting nutrition from the grubs in the manure, which cuts your feed bill for the chickens.
yeah,
And so like that sort of symbiosis that also helps with your profitability.
yeah.
But with your
I
your
have
example,
I have thought about that though, because see, bison they eat more grasses, so they're picky eaters. They don't eat a lot of clovers and like alfalfa and stuff. Um, so my thought was to rotate the bison ahead of the cattle, and then the cattle clean up behind them.
huh,
Um, because cattle eat more evenly, like the grasses. So I've thought about doing that just for, just to manage my forages a little bit better, because when a bison go through and they eat the forages, I don't like to see those patches left, because they'll eat everything down like lower, and then you got that other stuff growing up.
yeah,
And to better manage it, instead of having to take a brush hog out there, once or twice a year,
for sure.
I could take the cattle through there.
That I think that is like the exact idea behind the thought of stacking enterprises. Like I've liked the idea of adding sheep behind or with my cattle. It just becomes an issue of like figuring out the details. Like I know
Yeah,
with sheep and cattle co-grazing, cattle are really or sheep are really sensitive to copper. So you can't put certain minerals out for your cattle that the sheep would get into because it would kill them, I
yeah,
guess.
right.
But there's a lot of nice complementarity too, because their parasites they can't share parasites. And since they have slightly different tastes in forages, they complement grazing, like you were saying, with your bison are more picky, so they go ahead and then the cows come behind. That could
Yeah,
work well.
yeah. I was thinking more on a business standpoint, like stacking enterprises, like, if you were already selling this and you wanted to implement this, kind of like, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good idea, since you mentioned like your bison are kind of it's a smaller target audience, would you say? Yeah.
Yeah,
And grass-fed beef is, more people are eating that already. So
yeah,
you
right.
could, with the idea to be like doing sampler boxes, just to like get people to buy both and ship them
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
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 I think I would just have more, and I mean, I didn't have, like, when I started the grass-fed marketing, I didn't have a lot of subscribers. I only had like maybe 350 subscribers. So I didn't do a lot. I didn't have a lot of sales online, but now it's getting bigger. I have picked up a couple leads just, in the last probably week or so, a couple weeks. but my thought is like a lot of people, just like you said, that they eat beef. So I'm thinking, I could have, I mean, bison is really, really healthy, but I could have grass-fed beef that is also healthy, and I'd have another avenue for income come in.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Another way that you can look at stacking enterprises is not doing it all yourself, but rather having somebody else who is already an expert in that, say, animal or that product,
Yeah,
and just cooperating, say, just on the marketing end. So like if you were near a someone who did pasture raised poultry, then even if you didn't have them, I mean, ideally, in my mind, ideally you would cooperate so that they're running your their chickens behind your cattle or something, or your bison, to help with the soil health, because they're leaving all
yeah,
that healthy fertilizer behind. But even if you don't like have them on the same farm operation, just like selling them together, you can cooperate on the marketing end, and so now
yeah.
people
Well,
can put.
yeah, I've actually tried. I've actually, because at the market I go to, there's a couple. Um, there's a guy that raises some, free range chickens and some farm fresh pork,
Nice.
and I kind of mentioned that to him, but he didn't like. He wanted to kind of stay in his. He didn't want to collaborate like that,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I'm running into with talking to people like that. They have their own ideas and they're wanting to, so they don't really want to kind of do that, but they're like, oh yeah, we'd sell you our products and do it that way, but they don't want to, because my thought was, okay, I could give you a certain amount of my product, you give me a certain amount of your product, I'll sell your product, you sell my product. um but I don't think they want to take that on.
Yeah. So I like the idea of low risk ventures, because so much with farming is cash flow, everything being so seasonal.
Yeah,
Um, but I think a similar idea, but to make that less like low risk is more like like a consignment idea, right? So like I'm not buying your inventory and storing it, because
right,
that becomes like a drain on my resources. But if
right,
especially with shipping, right? Like if you guys could coordinate and say like, well, we're going to ship out to our customers on this sort of schedule, depending on, I think with small operations like ours, starting out like less is more, maybe once a month or twice a month. And then that way you can collaborate like, okay, well, I got, I don't know if they're doing like whole birds, which is most common, or if they're doing pieces, which there's more profit in pieces of chicken, but it's
yeah,
harder for like inspections and stuff. So you say, okay, well, on I'll give you the orders and we'll get it together and then we'll ship out on the same day. And we're just benefiting from like, you put my bison and beef on your website and I'll put your chicken on my website and we'll just try to sell more.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Another, go
I
ahead.
still might talk to him about it again. But they don't raise any kind of cattle or anything. So I thought about talking to some. I know a couple farms that do some grass-fed beef too, but I mean, I'd like to. I just don't know how big of a headache that would be to work with somebody that like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's kind of why I was going in a direction of having my own
for sure. I
beef.
think the biggest obstacle with all of these ideas about stacking operations comes back to working with other people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's too bad, because a lot of even like-minded producers who have the same beliefs about animal husbandry and soil health, like when it comes to marketing and order fulfillment, like you really got to be on the same page and trust that those people are gonna hold up their end of the deal, or
right,
it's gonna be bad for business. Because if someone ordered chicken and you can't deliver because it's not your chicken, like that would be a problem.
right, right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, is that Webb? I've seen you on the groups there. If you're with us, could you hop in and say hi? I'm gonna bother you because you joined. I've seen him pretty active in some of the groups. He's got a lot of good ideas. But one thing I'm currently interested in, and it's kind of far out there for like our area a little bit. I'm really interested in like this worm farm idea, because worm castings have been such a like recurring theme that has been coming up with like the stuff I'm reading about regenerating soils. And I'm trying to increase the biomass in my pastures. So I'm like trying to find biohacks to get me there faster so that it doesn't take years and years and years. And
Right.
vermicast keeps coming up. I'm like, man, what's great about it is that, I mean, not everybody like dreams of working with worms. I get that. But what's great about it is that the inputs are so minimal and what they make is pretty valuable if you know what to do with it. Because
Yeah.
like first of all, they reproduce really fast. So your stock, being worms, grows really fast. And then what your inputs are mainly byproducts that people don't want. Say it's like green waste, like scraps of food. And then if you're near like a dairy or like a horse people, manure, all of your inputs are things that people don't typically want to deal with anyway. So you're diverting low cost or free inputs. They're reproducing at a rapid rate. And then they make this vermicast that's like super good for soils. I don't know.
Are they like night crawlers?
I think the main one that's for vermiculture is the red wriggler. It's there's two kinds that are mainly used for vermicomposting, and it's not your standard like earthworm, but there is one that can be used both for composting and for fishing, like bait.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how would you, like you would spread them around your farm, or how would you?
Well, so there's a couple different ways you could do it, but you could make windrows of like, your compost, and then you can put them in there. It kind of depends where you live. One of the issues for Montana is the season is so cold that like they don't like it. Personally, they don't like it when it's like below 40. But I think the way you get around that is if they have enough like thermal mass, say in like a mound of dirt, they can keep themselves warm in there.
Yeah.
But there are people like there's an Arizona worm farm and there's a Texas worm ranch, I think they call it, which is funny. And they do it indoors, partly, some of them, which, I guess is not for everybody, but it's cool because you put the compost in a tumbler and the vermicast comes out the bottom, and then you can sell the vermicast for like $3 a pound, give or take. And then some people are making compost tea out of the vermicast, which then if you spray on your soils or orchards or gardens, it inoculates it and gives it more immunity and pest resistance. So that's kind of what I'm interested in right now, but I don't have any of that worked out in my head, just kind of a research phase right now.
Yeah.
Well, one idea that I saw for stacking enterprises was having bees on your property.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
It's crossed my mind, but it's another thing. Like, it's one of those things like,
Hey, Webb.
Hey, how are you? I'm trying to figure this thing out here real quick. Sorry.
No worries, you're good. Go ahead, Claire.
yeah, I just,
There we go.
I didn't be taking on another task that I really.
Yeah, well, so that's kind of the thing that is it's weighing options. Like, what are the challenges to stacking operations, and do the potential benefits outweigh those challenges? And for our area, Montana produces really good alfalfa clover honey. That's like our thing. I don't know why, but so there's companies around us where I can just like call them up and say, do you guys want to, have a hive on our property? And the only real limiting factor is commercially, they can't be within 3 miles of another, I think they're called apiary. So like, as long as the conditions are right for the company, and they'll just do the whole thing for you, and you're just like, yeah, there's some sort of contract where you agree to terms about the use of the property and such, but they compensate. I think it's nominal, but I think the other benefit is just having the bees on your property, or just like generating that good diversity.
Right.
So that would be an example where like
Yes. Yeah,
the labor is super minimal. You're just like, it's like a phone call and like signing paper.
yeah. No, that would be, yeah, that would be beneficial. I guess I would want to know where they're going to keep the bees, or how they're, you know, where they're going to keep them at, or how that's, how it would work out.
Yeah, I called, but the one of the pastures I have my cattle at, they there was an apiary with too close. So like they were like, darn, because it was a good spot for them, but they couldn't legally be that close to the other commercial one. So
Yeah,
it didn't work out, but hey, Wes,
yeah.
how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I've seen you pretty active on some of the groups. You always have a lot of good wisdom to share.
Yeah, I'm just getting kind of started, and I started my cattle herd about 4 to 5 years ago now, and really trying to get in the regenerative thing. I grew up with livestock. My grandfather had a Angus herd, and but he sold them when I was younger, and it's been a long time since. So I'm trying to add some opportunity with some pasture that opened up, and trying to get back into it. So I started my own herd, and we're trying to do things the right way. So it's I guess I'm kind of fortunate in a way that I don't have a lot of bad habits already from a conventional standpoint. So it's kind of nice, starting in the right direction right from the beginning. I think it helps, things progress a lot faster. So, and being able to communicate with all of you guys from all over the world and get advice has surely been helpful.
Cool. That's awesome.
I'm
So,
kind of in the same boat as him. My family always had cattle, but on a different note, I learned not what not to do from my relatives.
yeah. I'm also a first generation rancher. So we're in the same vein there. But as far as, I don't know, I have friends who are like fifth and third generation, and sometimes having the family right there with all their thoughts and opinions is kind of makes it more difficult to change your practices. And
Yes.
so, I don't obviously have that going on, but sometimes you're like, man, it'd be nice to benefit from their wisdom, but we get what we're given, and at least
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity for self-education about regenerative practices these days. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing unique, I guess, in my area compared to yours would be that I'm kind of alone in the sense of there's not a lot of cattle farming or ranching in my area. I'm on the East Coast, and we're dominated by crop farming by a long shot. So it's probably maybe 10% livestock and 90% crop farming. So which is good from a marketing standpoint. There's some competition, obviously, but definitely not on the scale of being out west where it's dominated by cattle. So
For sure. So you popped on, and I'm glad you did. Did you have a particular interest in a kind of like stacking enterprises with your operation?
yeah, I've definitely looked into it. Are either of you familiar with ranching for profit? Have either of you done any of those schools or anything?
I haven't been able to attend, but I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yep.
Yes, I haven't been to the actual school, but they did have they had a small 2-day workshop in my area a few months back in the summer, and I was able to attend that and meet Dallas Mount and learn some really good things from them. And I have thought about poultry was my first thing that I wanted to add, like you were talking about earlier. Following the cows. I think there's a lot of soil health benefits from that. My biggest issue is aside from my cattle enterprise, I do have a couple other businesses that I run as well. So I'm pretty busy. And for me, adding an enterprise, it has to be, and I think it's different for everybody, but it would have to provide a certain amount of financial benefit to be worth my time. And that's the part I'm struggling with. I try to put the numbers together, and I think, and when it comes to like chickens, especially, I'd have to run quite a few to see a return that was, I think, worth my time, and taking my focus off of other things and off of just improving what I'm doing well with now, which is the beef side of things. And that's something they talked about a lot at the with ranching for profit, is that it's what's more worth your time, improving like a business that you're good at, and expanding it and improving it, versus adding 3 or 4 other enterprises that then spread you thin everywhere else, and you really don't get enough financial return that's worth your time.
Yeah, that's a very important consideration. Have you given any thought to bringing on somebody else who is already interested in that type of enterprise and just kind of cooperating?
I have thought of that and I'm looking into that. I think that would be ideal for me, like I said, because then it wouldn't sacrifice my time. I, would benefit my land and provide them with an opportunity for land that they don't have. So it would kind of be mutually beneficial. But I think you guys were speaking about it a little bit before that some of the people that are doing pasture poultry, because it's in my area, land is very expensive and people are more limited to the acreage compared to like in your region. So there are a lot of small like poultry producers that backyards, the type of stuff, and a lot of them do. They already have their own brand. So I think trying to partner in a way that you can market your products. A lot of them don't necessarily want to be under your brand or whatever. They want that they're proud of their own thing, which is fine. That's commendable. So I think that's maybe the roadblock at this point, is just trying to find the right person that, or trying to figure out how or the right way to be able to sell your products together, and both parties are happy.
Yeah.
Would you guys find it a deal breaker to let somebody sell their thing under their own brand? Would that be okay? Or would you prefer it to be a uniform label?
I would be personally okay with that. I'm just not sure. I'd have to research it more about the like legality of selling, their label under my, on my website or whatever. I'm not sure if like the rules are different by region or by state or how that works exactly.
Sure. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You said that you're surrounded by crop farmers. Have you thought of cooperating with like a CSA farmer?
We don't have a lot of CSA in my area, actually. I have thought, one thing I really want to do with my operation that I think would be beneficial to the crop farmers, and it would give me some extra grazing in the wintertime, and would be to put cover crops in their the corn, soybean fields in the fall, and be able to graze them in the wintertime, so they would get the soil benefits from the cows grazing there in the wintertime. And I would get the extended grazing versus feeding hay, so be great. The thing there is just trying to find the right way to present that to the farmers to get them on board with it, and then also you have the the fencing and the water considerations too, to be able to do that. So that adds a little bit of challenge to it, but I think there's definitely potential there.
Quinn, what do you think is a limiting factor for your operation? Do you have, would you hit a maximum capacity on like stocking density, or do you have lots of land? What do you think is your?
Well, I'm able to acquire lease land, and because I just closed another 10-year lease for my bison operation. So I'd have, because right now I have 2 farms, so I'd have 3 farms of bison. And then there's another piece of property that I could get a lease on, and I was thinking about, and it's like 90 acres, and I was going to use that for the cattle operation. But as far as the cattle with the bison on the one farm, it would, I could make it work, but I'd have to destock a little bit and take some bison off of there and take them to one of the other farms. And I could make it work. I just don't, I've thought about it, but I don't know if that's the direction I want to go. Because I wouldn't be able to have, I'd only maybe be able to run maybe some steers, and then, just for butcher. I wouldn't be able to run like a cow calf operation. Because then if I was to use a bull, I couldn't separate him out and then have enough paddocks for the bison and the cattle.
For sure. I've heard of beefalo is a thing. So would you run into that issue with putting a bull?
Well, that's only if you run them together, and that don't always work.
Imagine not.
Sometimes it does. I mean, it's because sometimes they won't breed.
Sure.
They won't intermingle, and sometimes they will. But but no, that's not, I like to have the pure bison. I don't like to have cattle,
Yeah.
so.
I was surprised that was a thing when I found that out. I was like,
Oh,
"Wow."
yeah, it is a thing. It's very rare, but it's out there.
Yeah. So what kind of what kind of cattle do you run? Is it a cow calf or retained
Yeah, it's
ownership?
a little mixture. Yeah, I have mainly cow calf, but I'm grass finishing beef now. This is actually the first year that I've started marketing my grass finished beef to the public. So I'm keeping all my bull calves and steering them and finishing those. And then what I do is with my heifers, I put them in their first year for 30 days with the bull, and any heifers that don't breed in that 30 days, I also put them into the grass finishing program. So that's been working out well. The demand, obviously, with COVID and stuff, has been pretty great. It's a good time to be in the grass finish business, at least in my area. There's definitely room for growth. And that's actually part of my problem right now. So I started my herd, just a few cows and a few pairs, and tried to build it on my own versus buying a bunch of bred cows and stuff, just from a financial standpoint. So it's a little bit slower, growing to capacity, and I've actually found the need to try to buy some steers off of another, cow calf grass based operation to be able to meet the demand that I have. So, and I think I could still have more. Um, it's the registered side of things. That's how I started, because there is a market for registered hereford in my area. There's a lot of like hobby farmers that are into the registered, business. And but as I've gotten more into this and from a profitability standpoint, and since the grass finish thing has really taken off, I've thought about transitioning away from the register side and adding some crossbreeding, some South Poles and maybe Red Devon or something like that. So I'm still playing with that idea. I haven't done anything drastic yet, because I have built a pretty good herd, and I try to call, for things that benefit me from the grass finish standpoint, the regenerative standpoint, trying to get my frame size down. And so just kind of seeing where things are going.
Do you market like locally? Are you open to shipping, or is it mainly pickup and local stuff?
Yeah, it's been local up to this point, because honestly, the demand has been high enough that I haven't had a need to ship.
Sure.
I've had, people that I know, that live out of state and stuff have, been interested in buying it, having it shipped, but I've looked into it and researched it a little bit, but I haven't taken that leap yet, just because, like I said, if I can sell out locally, why would I, worry
Sure.
about the shipping and everything at this point?
Definitely.
So, eventually, if I get to the point, if I grow, large enough that I have enough inventory to go beyond, local buyers, then I certainly would be interested in that. I just, and I see that it, works for plenty of people. I question that people would pay to, the amount that shipping costs for something like that, but obviously it seems to work for plenty of other people.
Yeah, Quinn, I don't know if you heard him earlier, but he was sharing that he is a part of this grass-fed marketing program, and they kind of they focus on shipping, or is that right, or is that wrong?
Well, no, they don't focus on shipping, but they they help you implement it.
Cool.
They focus more on, getting traffic in, mainly. It's kind of different, they've got people in different areas. They got somebody that's, that does a lot of shipping and knows a lot about it. So they, kind of run you through a course on it. Webb, do you do bulk? Do you sell bulk, or do you sell like retail cuts?
I'm doing everything retail right now. So what I do, I don't sell halves and quarters and stuff. I do basically, I guess, comparable to an eighth is the largest package I sell right now, and I don't call it an eighth. I sell a 50-pound bundle, which is the largest package I sell, and it is the most popular thing that I sell. And what I do with that is it's basically an eighth. It's kind of a variety of things that I can get, to split a whole cow 8 ways. But the way that I don't sell it by the pound, it's just a set price, and
Right.
so I guarantee 50 pounds in that bundle, and basically I take the steaks and the roast or whatever makes up that eighth of a beef, and I'll adjust the amount of ground beef accordingly to make sure that it's guaranteed at least 50 pounds, maybe 51 or whatever, but I'll guarantee 50 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
So your main marketing channel, would you say that's email or traffic to your website, web?
Yeah, so I set up a website that I have an actual website for my farm, and then a separate website through Square that I use for my online retail. And it's actually, so I have a Facebook page and an Instagram and stuff, and I'm in a fairly populated area, but 100% of my sales and stuff has been through social media and word of mouth and stuff. And I'm getting found on Google some now as well. If you search grass-fed beef within 20 miles or 30 miles of my farm, that I'm usually the first one that pops up, which is helpful. I think a few people have started to find me that way. But as far as like email marketing and like subscribers to my website and stuff, I haven't had much luck with that. I really don't get a lot of traffic that way. I'd like to improve that. I'm not sure. Like I think I heard Quinn saying earlier, you were saying something about, I don't know, it seemed like a lot, 500 or whatever it was, subscribers. And I don't think, I don't even have that many followers on Instagram or Facebook or anything, but so I'm a long way from having a large audience as far as who subscribed to my website and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I've always been, word of mouth and like selling at farmers markets and local and stuff. And then I got I've always tried to get my email list up, have people sign up at like farmers markets and stuff, but I didn't have a lot of followers, only had like 350. And I mean, now I'm up to almost 800 just through running like a giveaway through, it's kind of like a funnel to funnel people into your giveaway, and then they sign up, and then you kind of grab their information. That way you can, email and market to them your products through email. And, through grass-fed marketing, they want you to have like a minimum of 2,500 people, because even if 1% buys, you're still making money.
Right.
So that's the concept of it. And that's, and the numbers work out in my head. If I can get up, 2,500, 3,000 people, and I can still sell 1% online, I'm still making money.
For sure. Hi, Bridget, welcome. Oh, you got to unmute. Sorry, you're still muted.
Hello, sorry to show up late and then mute myself again.
Okay.
I'm anxious to go back and watch what's already been covered, so thanks.
Yeah, so did you join on our first call?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So did you have a particular interest in stacking enterprises, like a particular interest in that?
I'm just sort of in the gathering information stages. We just recently launched February 1st, I guess, for selling our product direct to consumer. So I'm just kind of in a learning mode. So I'm just curious how everyone's doing it.
Congrats, by the way. That's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been exciting.
Yeah, I do a little bit of these things that people are talking about. I know Cam King is doing a great job with his group and his program, and the Ranching for Profit. There's a lot of producers around here who have gone to that school, and it makes such a big difference. A lot of really good things are happening in this space for regen, and then there's a lot of momentum gaining. I do worry a little bit about like greenwashing. There's a little bit of greenwashing going on, but the first person who really got me excited about the idea of stacking enterprises was when I read Gabe Brown's book. Have you guys read that, Dirt to Soil?
No, but I've heard about it.
I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't read it.
And the thing that blows me away about their operation is, as far as I can tell, it's pretty much just the family. It's not a lot of like labor. It's not a lot of people. And so that part gets me interested, because our operation is small. It's just family. We don't have employees or anything. And yet they've got all of these different things going on. And Joel Salatin is obviously well known for stacking enterprises too. I mean, he's got rabbits and chickens and I think pigs and beef. He's got like all the things, but I don't know a lot of people who can pull that off like he does. But basically just the way that it really generates momentum in your ecology to increase your profits that way, right? Because if you're if you're capturing more solar energy in your grasses and they're producing more biomass and they're producing more nutrient density, then any animal that's eating that is also benefiting from that process. And then we're selling it. So then, it helps with our brand, helps with our profitability. And so that's kind of what's got me excited about the idea. Then when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of it, that's where, the rubber meets the road. It's all about like, well, obviously I'm not in a position to take on all these different things myself, for all the reasons we've talked about, but I don't think it'd be too hard to find, maybe I'm optimistic or whatever, but like find a CSA farmer to work with and to find a, find a local apiary to invite onto your pastures, depending on what your situation is there. I don't know, like, I think focus is like important, obviously. And Webb, you seem to have a really good like clarity on like, is it going to pencil out? Is it going to be worth my energy? And if it's not, then we don't do it. But, you said something about kind of giving somebody else an opportunity if it's a good fit. Right. And so maybe in your area, if you got a lot of people who already have poultry figured out, they don't need that opportunity. But if there's someone who wants to like, start their own sheep flock or start pasture raising pork, and it just works out where you guys get along and you both have complementary operations. I feel like this is a really good opportunity for people in our space to work together, and if it works out, it increases profitability and increases, the health of the animals and the land, etc. So I just like talking about it because I'm kind of nerdy that way. But you guys are full of a lot of really good wisdom when it comes to like nuts and bolts and like profitability. It's good to keep your headspace there too, obviously.
Yeah, I think the stacking, with other people, there's a lot of obstacles there, and that's what I've kind of ran into, kind of like Webb said, with trying to find people is one thing, and then trying to find people that is willing to do it. And then it's just, I think it would take a lot of work to get somebody to work with somebody to do it. That's kind of the thing that I run into. And that's kind of why I was kind of going in my own direction with the grass-fed beef. And I even thought about, doing pastured pork too, but that might be something I take on later on down the road.
Yeah, and I think another thing, a challenge with it for sure is that, you spend a lot of time and effort, getting what they're, trying to improve the soil and get things on your own place to be the way that you want them to be. And I guess, trying to have someone else come on your place and, meeting all your expectations or, not undoing some of your, what's taken a lot of time and work to get to that point. So I think that would be a definite challenge as well. Trying to develop that relationship and making sure that you could present those expectations and have them follow them and not cause a lot of conflict and things like that. That would probably also be a challenge for me.
Well, so Webb, one idea that you said about the cover crop, working with a crop farmer, I think that's a great opportunity. In my head, I thought like, what about their, applications and their, like, you would obviously have to find someone who's not putting stuff down on their land that doesn't agree with how you run your cattle, right? Do you think that would be hard?
Yeah, and that's another thing, like from, I guess from a political standpoint, kind of with there are cover crop programs in my area, which I'm sure there are in a lot of places, but there's incentives from like the NRCS and soil conservation for crop farmers to put in fall cover crops, through the winter cover crops, but they have a long ways to go in the sense that from our standpoint, when we want livestock, grazing a diverse mix of cover crops and things like that. And right now the programs are set up basically for monocrop cover crops, like, there's, wheat, barley, things like that. But there's nothing in there about trying to do a diverse cover crop as far as incentives for the farmer. So I think you'd have to go even further and try to get some change in the system as far as making that more appealing to crop farmers to get on board with that.
Yeah, there's a, are you talking about the Equip program? Or do you know what that program is that they're using?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but and it may fall under that. I'm not 100% sure if it's that or USDA or what it is, but yeah, I'm familiar with that. I've used the Equip program a little bit to help with
Okay.
some perimeter fencing and waters and stuff like that.
I've looked into it for perennial seed, to try to put out seed in the pastures for that. I haven't had success, but I just wanted, I was like, it'd be great if there was some program that would, be supportive of this. And I think the closest I found was that Equip, but I don't know if I still might explore it. It seems like there might be something there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I've
think-
used it as well.
Okay.
There is another, I don't know if you've heard of the carbon credits.
I have heard of it. I haven't researched into it much, or I don't think a
Aren't
lot of
those,
people.
It's
You know,
something you get,
go ahead.
it's something that you sign up for. And I heard it on a podcast. And if you like, it's something about the carbon credits, like they come out and they test your soil and they'll test it like 3 feet down. And they measure your carbon somehow. And if you sign up with them, then you get paid based on, I guess, like how much carbon is in your soil. Like if you're doing good with your farm and it's making good carbon, then I just did a little bit of research and I ran across it, but I've been wanting to look more into it to see
well, so
whether
I
it's
think,
in my
I
operation.
think I know of a program like that, but it's, as far as I know, it's not government sponsored at this point. It's mainly, corporations and like
Yeah,
third party private.
Right, yeah.
But so the shady side of that, unfortunately, is that like the money is coming from like people who are like heavy polluters.
Right.
And like
Just trying
from
to
a
offset
PR
their.
standpoint, they're just buying off their bad deeds by paying farmers to do good practices.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I did hear that. Yes.
But maybe, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a opportunity in that sector, like heck, if there's all these subsidies going out to things that are harmful, long term, and like they're degrading our soils and stuff, like why can't we just like slowly, turn some of that funnel of money towards better causes?
Mhm.
Maybe what do they say, like don't make good enemy of perfect, or what is it, that expression, like just because it's not perfect and ideal doesn't mean it's bad, right? Progress is progress. But that's the only downside I've seen of the like carbon credits program to this point, is just like who's funding it. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have some people in our area that participate in that. As far as I understand though, they're only interested in bigger operations so that they can accumulate more credits so they can sell them.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But maybe, I mean, I think it's a developing area. So hopefully in the future, it gets better and more people are open to it. And I mean, if it can be more easily quantified about the good that's being done by capturing, carbon and stuff, then I think it'll be more, I don't know, it's dangerous though, because there's always opportunity for people to like corrupt it and use it for bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bridget, how are things going on your guys' end with you're not shipping, right? If I remember correctly.
We're in Texas, so we have a pretty big market here, but we are shipping a little bit, and so that's been an interesting process. So when I first got on, I heard someone talking about that. So I'm happy to share what I've learned, because that was quite a learning curve, but we've got it kind of under control, I think. In Texas, you can only ship in Texas because we're doing it at a state inspected facility instead of USDA. So I can only ship in Texas. But yeah, so we've done a little bit of that, but a lot of just to people in the area.
Cool.
So it's been fun.
Did you explore that urban buying club idea?
I did a little bit, yes, and found out that, yes, there is one close by. And then I did one farmer's market. And so I actually had a ton of fun with that. And so I'm going to do that one more time this month and kind of see how that goes and figure out if that's a good route for us or not. But yeah, there's lots of different avenues to get it out there. I heard someone talking about just like getting the word out. And that is one of, the biggest challenges, is the best way to do that. And I've looked into the grass-fed marketing and how they do the funneling and all of that sort of stuff. But still very early on for us.
So the little bit I know about, and I could be wrong, so, be forgiving of that if I am, but I believe Cam King, a lot of what he has applied to this industry as far as grass-fed marketing, he has learned from like the school of Russell Brunson. So have any of you guys like dabbled into anything that Russell Brunson has put out? He's just a marketer. He's not anything about ag. He doesn't know anything about agriculture, but he's a really good marketer. And so like the concept of funnels, like that's like his baby. And so like, he's got books and books. I've read all of it, like all 3 of his main books, but, and it's really good stuff, but Cam has done a really nice job of applying that specifically to our industry. And so he's kind of shortcutting the work for people who don't want to learn it from scratch from Russell, but that's
that's kind of how he explains it. Like, instead of, you taking and learning this stuff, he puts it in a way for farmers to market, is how he kind of does it.
So with your ad expenses that you've put out there, do you know when, or maybe you've already done it, the return comes back to you?
Well, I just launched it, like I said, like 6 days ago. So I don't have good data to be able to tell. I mean, just from the couple sales, it's covered up to this point, but I haven't ran it long enough to actually see what it's, I need to run it up probably up till the giveaway to have good numbers, basically another month, and then I'll have better data.
So you have the expense of the ads and the expense of whatever you're giving away. And so you total those together, and you're hoping for, whatever comes in return on investment is, pays for that and more.
Yeah.
Nice.
But then what I see in the long-term investment is having that, that clientele, that email
For sure.
of all those people. Like if I can run it and get up to say 4,000 people, and maybe I break even, or maybe make a little bit less, to me, it would be worth it, because I'd have that email list to market to those people.
Yeah, this is a concept that Russell Brunson talks about. And it's like, if you know the lifetime value of your customer, or the average lifetime value of your customer, then you can more confidently spend marketing dollars, because like where your break even is, where it comes back to you. Right. And so like investing in an email list is super worthwhile, I think, from everything I've read, because you own it, you own that information until they unsubscribe, and you can just market to them into the future for basically free. So it's pretty great.
Well, see, in the past, I had a hard time. I would always hear that, but I'd have a hard time, taking that in and kind of visualizing that that's what I need to do. But in the back of my mind, I knew that's the way I needed to go. And then, since I started this full time, it's like, okay, I need to go in that direction.
So I'm curious, Quinn, is it just you, or is there a missus, or is there family?
Just me.
Just you. All right.
Just me and my little boy that's 6. I wish he was like 15.
No, I have a 16-year-old, and he's not, well, he is helpful, but maybe not quite as helpful as I would have envisioned when he was 6.
Yeah.
And how about you, Webb? I don't know, but do you have a family?
Yes, I have a wife, and I have 2 little girls, a 1-year-old and 2-year-old. So kind of in the same boat as Quinn. I'm not quite old enough to do a whole lot yet, but one of these days.
Yeah.
And if I remember, Bridget, you're a boy mom, right?
I have 2 girls and a boy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then my husband is the rancher, and I just sell the meat. So we kind of all are doing it together, which is
That's a good combination.
Yeah, one of the questions, and y'all may have covered this a little earlier, but Quinn, I don't know what size you guys run, but one of the things we're trying to figure out is just how much product. Like we launched our website and we sold out of our steaks like immediately, and so everyone's like, do you think you'll have some more steaks next week? And so like trying to educate them that it doesn't just appear like it does in the grocery store. is a little bit different. And I think part of that is just the market that we're in right now. Our ranch is like 2 hours from where we live, but we live in the suburbs outside of Houston. And so the people that we're marketing to currently are used to going over to the grocery store and getting their meat whenever it's ready, right? And so a little bit of this process is letting them know, well, we won't have another animal until our next process date. So trying to figure out how much to process, and then how to also softly educate our consumers that it's not just we restock it as soon as it's out. And then trying to plan ahead, because obviously, this has been in the works for about 2 years. So, we have a certain number of animals this year, and then next year we'll up our quantity. But just trying to figure out how many processing dates, because where we in Texas, it's really hard to get processing dates. I mean, we've been on the calendar for like 18 months just to get the dates, which I'm sure is to the country, but just trying to plan that ahead of time and trying to figure out what size market we can market to, and how many of those are going to be repeat customers versus, one-offs, and how you kind of plan for that.
Yeah,
is
I'm
the
struggling.
phase we're in right now.
I'm kind of struggling with the same thing that I've actually tried not to push some of my product too hard because, I am still smaller and I've had no trouble selling out, as soon as I have something available. And, so I don't want to get a bunch of new customers looking for product and say, sorry, I don't have it available until 6 months from now. And it turns them away, from coming back in the future. So I tried to kind of find a balance where, to like, get product out there and, put it on social media and stuff. But at the same time, I've tried to not extend myself too far where I have all these people coming and then I can't meet the demand.
Yeah, Quinn, how are you handling those issues? Just curious.
I have the same problems with like my steaks too. They're a hot item. And but basically, I mean, I just educate. I mean, it's usually I have to educate the people that, like this one customer, all she buys is tenderloins. And I have to explain to her like I only have so many, I can't, and then like when I sold a half to the one guy, then I only had what was left and I sold her the rest of them. And she said, and then she was like, well, put me down for pre-order for all of them the next time. Well, the next time I butchered 2 larger animals and had a lot more steaks. So she ended up buying half of those. But I just basically, tell people that the stuff sold out because I sell, different stuff like processed stuff like hot dogs, summer sausage, bratwursts, Italian sausage, jerky, snack sticks. I sell all those products. And so it's not just the regular cuts, but that's kind of why I want to go in the direction of the bulk, selling like Ace, and that way I am selling not just steaks, but I'm selling like, ground with it or roasts with it or briskets with it. So when I run out of a product, I just tell people that I'm out until I butcher again. And I haven't had too much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I think one way around that is, just like trying to sell through packages, which it sounds like Webb is doing, right? So if you especially if you're shipping, because then you can control what goes in the box. But, if the only way to get a certain amount of ribeyes or whatever your thing is that you're selling out of like hotcakes is to, package it, then you can kind of control that you're not going to just be left with a bunch of ground beef or whatever your thing is that doesn't move. But that's a downside too, because it's, you don't want to turn away customers who want to buy something from you, but you also don't want to be left with like your, having freezers full of stuff that doesn't move. That's
Right.
not ideal either.
Right. And one of the things that we're looking at, and again, very young, very early in this, but I thought that the ground meat would be what sold out the quickest, just because I think there's such a difference in the quality of ground meat from our processed animals versus what you're getting at the grocery, unless you're a hunter and are used to, deer meat or something. And it hasn't sold as fast, but I think our pricing on that is higher than what they sell at the grocery, where I feel like our pricing on everything else kind of evens out it's a lot easier to compete with that. Not that we're competing with the grocery store, we're still a little higher, but I think the price difference is much bigger in ground meat. But looking at simplifying it by having, a box of beef that maybe it's, for the month. Because we're selling halves and wholes, and those sold out like right away just because we're cautious on how many we put out there. But on getting like a box and having that mixture of steaks and roast and ground meat and stuff like that. Because that would certainly simplify my life for packing it for deliveries and, and that sort of stuff. But finding out what kind of works when every animal is a little bit different. So it's hard to know how much product you're going to have of each. I think as we do it more often, we'll find more consistency and be able to plan accordingly. But because we're still early on it, it's hard to plan like what our quantities, I guess. I've had people say, well, can I pre-order steaks? I'm like, well, you'll just have to, we'll let you know when we have more product, but that's hard to do when you don't really know the quantity.
There's something you were saying that maybe, there's a nearby operation and they've had success with their ground beef in like a subscription model. So it's a small amount, say it's like 5 pounds or something, but on a pretty habitual basis. So the entry for people is pretty low. They're like, I'm not risking a lot of money. And then they get, and if you can get them to agree to subscription until they cancel, that's recurring money. And so as long as you figure out, the right price point and the right quantity to, whether you're shipping it so it makes sense or whether it's delivery so that, it makes sense for you, that seems to be working well for them. They have sort of like a route. I don't think they're shipping it, and they've got a list of people who, I don't know if it's every 2 weeks or something, but they're basically getting like a kitchen size freezer quantity.
Right. Yeah. That's what I think is kind of the sweet spot for all of that, is to figure out like, is that an every 2 week delivery and what goes in that packet? I think for my client base, I think that's going to be probably the easiest.
Yeah, I'm also working on that right now as well. Ground beef has been a little bit harder for me to move as well, and seem to have a little bit more of that in comparison to the steaks and everything else. And I'm currently trying to do that, trying to figure out how to set up just a ground beef subscription. But I haven't quite nailed down how to make my website do that. It has the option, but I just haven't quite figured out the logistics of making that work yet. But I think that definitely is a good idea.
Yeah, because people are going to, at least in our area, and people are going to the store once a week and buying it, and it seems like such a better product if I can just figure out how to, one, communicate it, and then 2, make it easy to where it just appears. I think once you get them, it'll be a easy resale. It's just kind of setting it up that way.
The last time we had a producers group call, Bridget, you mentioned about customer education. Then have you found like an avenue to attack that issue?
I think that's the thing I really enjoyed most about the farmers market, was being able to just kind of talk to people. And some of them came very educated and knew what was going on, and then some of them were there just for a social event, just to get out and do something on a nice day. And so just kind of having the discussions with them about it. So a little bit, and obviously I've had way more thoughts about it than I've actually implemented, just because of trying to get everything nailed down. But there's so much good information out there. It's just finding a way to, one, make it interesting to the consumers, and 2, meeting them kind of where they are. And I think sometimes we get a little biased by already knowing so much more about the industry, versus someone who's used to just going to the store and buying some meat and not thinking a thing about it. So kind of treading that lightly. So I have not done a good job of consolidating it. Lots of ideas, but not a good plan in place yet.
Yeah, I've been tackling that a little bit, not in like a really profound way, kind of like you were saying, more ideas than action. But I've been doing a blog post once a month, and it's one stone and it's killing a couple birds at the same time for me, because then I have material to mention in my email newsletter. right? So like I'll sit down, I'll write the post, and it's typically customer education. Like that's my idea. And then I'll post it, and then I get to go to my email and I'll be like, hey, I just wrote this new thing about this thing. And it just, so they're, kind of helping. And then it also is helping me with SEO, which I could get into more, but I won't.
Can you share that with us later? Can you share your blog with us?
Yeah, sure. I can just drop it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing amazing. It's, it's like you said, because people are coming from so many different levels,
Right.
you just need to get them like one step in front of like the grocery store idea, right? And so there's so much material when you think about it. So just picking one little nugget.
Right.
Mine are averaging, because my blog site, it tells you how long it takes to read. I don't know why, but they're averaging like 3-minute reads, which are super short. I'm like, really? That took me forever to write.
That's how writing goes for sure.
So yeah, I'll put it out there, and I'm trying to set myself to a schedule, because I know with like everything with marketing is about consistency. And so like just it's a pretty minimal schedule, but I'm just trying to stick to it, because you're doing a good job with your emails when people reply to them as if like you had just sent someone like a personal email. And that happened a little bit more this last time I wrote an email, and it kind of was like, I was like, wow, like this person wrote back to me like I had just written this email for them. And I was like, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Little wins.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of people. I don't have 800 people on my email list like Quinn, but it was exciting.
Right.
Bridget, when you go to the farmers markets, do you like have a sign up for people to sign up for an email list and stuff?
I don't. I've only done it once, but I'm going back this week, and that is one of the things I'm going to try to get some email addresses. And I don't know if that is like to win a gift card or the best way to actually get them to take the time to write it.
I mean, a lot of my success is through farmers markets, because when I was working full time, and I didn't do the farmers markets only here and there, but when I did them, that's where I educated people, and that's where I got people to sign, email lists. And basically I would sell them on just saying, hey, I do a monthly newsletter, and I tell what's going on a farm, and tell you how I do my thing. And then people are just, they'll sign up. But I put a big sign up there, says email sign up, and I have it there with a pen and paper, and they sign. I mean, it's kind of a nice form, that has my logo and has, it's numbered, and it's kind of nice and neat. So they write it down.
Just a little tip I heard from someone about that: put an email address down as number one. Just like start the list off with one.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. No one
Well, that's actually what I actually leave my previous one on there with emails on it, and then people just continue. And then when I get it filled up, then I'll go to the next one.
Yeah. No, I had done this last one, the first one I did. I have just a little advertisement thing that I have, some prints I made, and it's got a QR code on it. And so if they scan that, it sends it directly to my website. And then on the website, it says subscribe. And so I was actually pleasantly surprised how many people, because I can see how many people, look at it at a certain time. And there were quite a few people who did sign up.
That's nice. What
more
tech
than
is
I
that?
thought. Excuse me?
What store or tech or app is doing that for you?
I just went to you search QR code, and I just made a QR code that sends them directly to your website.
Oh, sure.
And
okay.
then,
Okay.
Yeah. And then on my print material, it's on there. So if they scan it, it sends them straight to the website.
Nice. Yeah. I have a QR code on my sign. I just thought yours was taking them to like a landing page or a form or something, but that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, no, it's to my website, which has a place for them to subscribe. Which I was surprised, because I do not like giving out my email address. Like, I'm not one of the, and so I was surprised how many people did. But I think it depends on your area, but I think for us, a lot of people are very curious about farming because it seems very remote from where they are. And so I think we have the opportunity to educate them a lot about where their food comes from, because I think there's a lot of people in our area who haven't really thought about that, unfortunately. So I think the idea of doing, and that's on my to-do list as well, writing about things that happen at the farm, and that I think it's kind of a sneak peek into selling, you're not just selling the beef, you're selling a story. And so Quinn, your comment about, visiting with the people at the farmer's market and telling them kind of what's going on, I think that's a lot of what you're selling.
Yeah.
It's not just the better beef.
And then that's the
Good.
other people at the market, other farmers at the market, that sell like farm fresh pork and their, free range chicken. They, they sell their story. That's what they sell.
Mhm.
Hey guys, just because of my Zoom account, I'm gonna stop the recording and it'll stop the live. And I didn't want to like interrupt anyone because it'll like announce it to you. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that.